This is our fifth session, and it is on frontal plane multi-apical deformities. By now, I assume and I hope that all of you can plan and correct your uniapical frontal plane deformities. And now this fifth session, it is now we have moved to a more advanced portion of our deformity planning and correction webinar. And in this session, we will discuss both femur and tibia, and we will try to learn how do we correct a deformity and plan a deformity when there are more than one coras and when there are complex deformities. So in the last week, and there were a few questions. One of the participants wanted me to revise the rule of 3 lines in mechanical planning, and so I'm going to quickly discuss that, and then we will jump to our session on multi-apical deformities. Now, this is a femur with genu valgum. I'm just going to show you how to draw mechanical axis orientation lines and using the rule of 3 lines. As I told earlier, first you will draw your joint orientation lines. Then you will draw a mid diaphyseal line. Okay. Then what will you do? You will draw a line which is parallel to this line, and you will bring this line to the center of the head. You will draw a line which is parallel to the anatomical axis of the femur, or the mid diaphyseal line of the femur. And then, as I told you earlier, the normal anatomical mechanical angle is 7 degrees plus minus 2 degrees. So now we will draw with the reference of this line. As I told you earlier, that if I transect these two parallel lines, the rule of parallel lines, an extension of rule of opposite angles, will say that this angle and this angle would be the same. These 4 angles would be the same. This angle must be equal to this angle. This larger angle must be equal to this angle and this angle. And while keeping this in mind, we are going to, and we all know that the mechanical axis is at 7 degrees to the anatomical axis. So we draw a 7 degrees line from the head of the femur. This gives us our normal mechanical axis of the proximal femur. Now we can simply remove these 2 lines, and then we are going to draw a normal 88-degree reference line of the distal femur, and this is going to give us our cora. So this is the rule of 3 lines, sorry. So I hope this is clear. So now we will move towards our next session, the multi-apical deformities. Satar, as usual, you will be taking the questions
Yes, sir.
because in this session, I do not have much theory to discuss with you. I will only discuss scenarios with you and a basic one or two principles. So all that
Okay,
I
sir.
will be doing in this session, I would be showing you multiple cases and I will be planning with you these cases. So feel free to ask any question if you want during this session, and Dr. Abdul Sattar will communicate it to me. So let us jump to our session on multiple apical deformities or bowing deformities. Look at this X-ray. Many a times you see people with healed rickets come to you in this shape, and a few patients with dysplasias, multiple dysplasias, achondroplasic patients come to you with pictures like this, and it is evident that there is no particular point in that bone where you can say that the apex of the deformity is visible to you, because this is not a simple deformity. This is a bowing deformity like a banana, and there must be multiple apices. How do we start with our planning? The planning will start same as it was before. First, we will draw mechanical axis of the limb. It tells us that there is a varus deformity in this leg since the knee is lateral to the mechanical axis of the limb. Next, what would we do is we will draw mechanical axis of the reference bone and the joint orientation lines. We see over here that here the here you can see the lateral proximal femoral angle mechanical is 105 degrees. Well, in normal it should be 90 degrees, and lateral distal femoral angle is 102 degrees when the normal range is 88 degrees. So both of these angles are abnormal. We will do same measurement in our tibia. Now here MPTA, medial proximal tibial angle, is 69 degrees, and the lateral distal tibial angle is 116 degrees, 6 degrees, meaning both the angles are abnormal, which tells us that deformity most probably is a diaphyseal deformity, as both the angles are disturbed. So just first we are going to only focus on the deformity of the tibia. So usually, what would you do if you encounter a deformity? How would you answer the third question? You will, is where, how will you locate the deformity? is you will draw reference lines of proximal and distal joints, and where these joints lines meet, it will give you the apex of your deformity. Now, this is where you get your cora. As you can also appreciate that this apex of the deformity is not right here. You can see that there is no obvious apex of this deformity. So let us assume that this is our cora and we just correct it. As I told you, we're going to draw a mid bisector line, which will give us our angulation correction axis. And the angle, the 34, the magnitude of deformity is 34 degrees, and the larger angle is 146 degrees. So if we dissect it at 73 degrees, it will give us our bisector. And let's see what happens if we, using a rule, simple rule, one osteotomy, we do the osteotomy and we plan to do an opening wedge, and we correct it. Now, look at the shape of the bone. Does this bone look normal to you? It's just like you have got a banana and you have just cut it in the middle and you have straightened it. Though the joint orientation is restored, mechanical axis is restored. This, you have corrected the deformity, and it is practically possible in this case that you can do this by using an Ellis or any other means of external fixation. But how, if you plan that you want to nail this tibia, how can you put a nail in this patient, or how can you play it? Because there is no one fixed apex to this deformity. So how will you plan? How will you diagnose? How will you locate the other deformities, the other apices of the deformity? Now, let's just when there is a multi-apical deformity and you draw your reference lines, the proximal and distal reference lines, the resultant cora, this cora does not represent the actual apex of the deformity. So what would you do now is, you will draw a third line. You will need another reference line which will help you in determining the deformity. What would you do is, you will also try and draw a reference line to the middle portion of the bone as well. And the rule to drawing that line, is that line must be almost a mid-diaphyseal line, and that line must intersect with the proximal and distal reference lines inside the bone, and then it will give you apices of the other deformities. Now look, I have drawn a line which is more or less parallel to the shaft of the tibia. As you can see, it is parallel to the tibia, and it is bisecting, it is sort of intersecting the reference lines inside the bone. It does not really make much difference if you draw a line which is slightly oblique. What I mean to say is, if I've drawn a line like this, it has given me the location of the cora at this point and this point. So what is going to happen if I draw this line like this? What is going to happen? It's not going to make much of a difference. As you can see here, the magnitude of deformity in this X-ray is 34 degrees. And here the 22 degrees of deformity are in the proximal part and 12 degrees in the middle part. So the resultant deformity magnitude remains the same. If I mark a line over here, now it is 15 degrees here and 20 degrees here. Since it's a bowed tibia, it does not have one particular apex. So you will draw a line which is nearest representative of the mid shaft of the tibia, and wherever these two lines meet will give you the apex of the multiple apex of your deformity. So now in this case, now I have drawn this line and this has given me two coras. Now see, when I correct this deformity, see what has happened. I am going to do an osteotomy along the, roughly along the ACA, and I'm going to correct it. Now the above deformity, I'm going to do another osteotomy on my planned side. I'm going to do another, sorry. Now, as you can see, I've corrected the deformity. And in this scenario, with two osteotomies, you can easily put an intramedullary nail and you can correct the deformity. And if this is a deformity, the bowing is too much, and you will, as you say that two osteotomies is not going to give you your desired correction, you can even draw two lines and get three coras. Even if you want to draw, you can simply draw two reference lines. You can divide the tibia into small parts. You say that first I will draw a reference line of this part and then another reference line of this part. So you can get three coras if you want. It does not make that much of a difference. Okay, I was here. I think I was drawing this second line. You were not able to see this. What I did was, I assumed that since the deformity is too much and I cannot correct this with only two osteotomies, this must have multiple, more than two osteotomies. So what I can do is, I can simply draw three reference lines. So in this scenario, I get one cora, two coras, and three coras. But this is just to tell you that this is, in this patient where there is bowing, there is no fixed point. You can plan according to the need. If you feel that the magnitude of deformity is too much, you can even have three osteotomies. The resultant effect will be that you will be getting a straight line. What happens when you patients healed rickets come to you, or patients of osteogenesis imperfecta, they have got such bowed legs. You do an osteotomy which is called the shish kebab osteotomy. What it is, you pass in a nail from here, where it touches the cortex, you do an osteotomy. Then you proceed the nail where it again touches the cortex. This is what I'm telling you about. That in case of bowing, you draw a third line which bisects intersects the proximal and the distal axis, and then you get your resultant coras. This is how you correct the bowed deformities. The next session is, if you get a case in which this is the picture. Now, this is not a board deformity. I showed you a clinical case in, I think, our second session, in which there was an obvious deformity, but the cora was not coming on the obvious deformity. It happens in such cases when there are multiple, more than one deformities in one bone. But let us start quickly. We have drawn mechanical axis of the limb, then joint orientation lines, let's just move to tibia quickly so that there is not. Now, in this patient, we draw reference lines of the tibia. Assuming that femur is normal, you can either draw, you can extend the line from femur. Now it has the medial proximal tibial angle is 87 degrees. Now what are you going to do is, you're going to draw a reference line of distal tibia. Now what has happened? As you can see here, both the reference lines of tibia and of proximal tibia and distal tibia are not joining with each other. So you are not able to get a cora. So what does it mean? That it means obviously there are deformities of opposite magnitude. There must be a varus and valgus in this X-ray which are not compensating. So that's why the cora, the both reference lines have gone apart. So how do you calculate, how do you pinpoint the location of the deformity? You draw a third line. Again, you draw a third reference line. Now this reference line will be more or less a representation of the diaphysis. You will start this line from where you can appreciate the obvious deformity. As in this case, I can see that this is the location where my obvious deformity is. So you'll draw your reference line, which is more or less starting from the apex of the deformity, and where this line will cross the two reference lines, it will give me the location of my deformities. So the two coras of this tibia, one is diaphyseal and other is in the ankle joint. So let us correct the deformity and see whether what I am saying is it right or not. Let us plan a supramalleolar osteotomy over here. Here I am doing a supramalleolar osteotomy. Here I'm gonna keep my apex over here, and then let us plan an opening wedge rather than a closing wedge. This is how I've corrected the distal deformity. And now I'm going to do another osteotomy and correct the proximal one. Then I'm going to do an opening wedge osteotomy. Since I did not do the osteotomy exactly over the ACA, so now as you can see, the ankle has been restored and the shaft is normal. This has given me the correct deformity, corrected the deformity. This is how you plan and you correct the multi-apical deformity. Let me revise it in 1 minute and then we can proceed to our next session. That in this patient, in this X-ray, in this scanogram, the femur was normal, so we extended the proximal axis. The proximal reference line is 87 degrees, as you can see. We drew
Yes,
a.
thank you.
Is there any question, Satar?
No, sir.
Okay.
Up till now, all
Okay,
the things
okay.
are clear.
Okay. So then we drew a distal reference line, and as we saw, these lines are not even connecting to each other. So we assume that.
Farooq is asking about the position of the ankle. After doing the osteotomy, ankle is seen to be more deformed in the previous one.
Okay, well, I'm going to repeat. Let me, when you'll see, you'll be clear. Because I did a translational osteotomy in that case, that's why it seemed to you. So here I'm not going to do a translation. I'm just going to do a rule 1 osteotomy, and then I'll show you what happened. The ankle was fine, but since there was translation, it looked to you that there was something wrong with it. Okay. So now I'm going to, we drew a reference line. This reference line has to be a near representative of the shape of the shaft. It does not have to be exactly the replication, the shape of the shaft, but it should intersect both the lines within the bone. Okay. Now, this has given us the cora. Now, let us see what is the magnitude. Distally, the magnitude of deformity is 37 degrees and proximally it is 39 degrees. So now let us first correct the proximal deformity, then you will get a better understanding. Okay, this is a bisector. Let us do an osteotomy here. Now, we're doing a opening wedge. Now look what has happened. Now the tibial shaft has been corrected, but now look at the shape of the ankle. We have addressed the tibial deformity, but now where the ankle has gone now, it has gone into valgus, and it is a valgus with 37 degrees of magnitude. It is not a simple deformity, it is a deformity with 37 degrees of magnitude. So now we will correct the tibial deformity. Let us clear the things. I will do the planning. Now I am simply going to erase everything, and let us take this deformity as an isolated deformity. Then you will get a better understanding. Now I'm just going to, now look at it. Now this is the scenario. We have corrected the upper deformity. Now look at the ankle now. It is in extreme valgus. Again an 87 degrees line. Reference line of the ankle. And lateral distal femoral angle of 90 degrees. Now we can see that this is the location of the deformity with 38 degrees of magnitude. Now what will we do is we will draw a bisector. Bisector will be at 71 degrees. Okay. Now this is the line of the deformity. Now I cannot do an osteotomy over here and damage the medial malleolus. So I have to, so the rule 1 osteotomy is not practical for me over here. So I have to do another osteotomy. So I will be doing a rule 2 osteotomy. And what was the rule 2 osteotomy? I would plan my osteotomy, which is above my angulation correction axis, and sorry, we have to mark the spot. Okay. Now I will this was the location of my ACA, and then I have placed my cora, my hinge over the angulation correction axis, and this will correct the deformity. Now don't look at, obviously this deformity has been corrected through translation. It is a 38 degrees of deformity and it has corrected through translation. But what you need to see here is the mechanical axis of the tibia and the joint orientation has been restored. Is it understood now?
Yes, sir.
So let us move to a third scenario. I'm just gonna do different rehearsals. Now, this is another case. In this, you can appreciate the deformity is mid-diaphyseal, and you'll do the same rehearsal. The first question of malalignment test: is there a deformity? It is passing slightly lateral. Okay. The other question which you will assess the deformity of the individual bones. In this case, as I know that femur has got no deformity, so I've just extended the line. But first you need to, then I will draw my reference lines, joint orientation lines. The second step, that you will draw the mechanical axis of your individual bone. And here you can see that the lateral distal tibial angle is 74 degrees and medial proximal tibial angle is 92 degrees. Slightly raised medial proximal tibial angle and markedly
Can you
decreased
zoom it?
lateral.
Zoom it, please.
Sitar, do you have a
It will,
question?
it will be more clear if you zoom it, tibia only.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now the lateral distal tibial angle is markedly decreased, while medial tibial angle is slightly increased. So what will you do next is you will draw your reference lines. This is your reference line for proximal tibia, 88 degrees, and then you will draw your reference line of distal there you go. This has given you the cora. And now, as you can see in this, does this cora correspond with the apex of the deformity? No. The obvious deformity is right here, while the cora comes right here. The cora is not corresponding with the original, with the visible apex of the deformity. So there must be another deformity because of which this is disturbed. So how would you find that deformity? Again, by drawing another reference line. So in this scenario, you will draw a reference line which is starting from the obvious apex of the deformity, more or less representative to the shaft, and it should transect both the lines within the bone. So I've started a line which is more or less in the apex of the deformity, and it is transecting both of the lines inside the bone, and this will give me the location of my deformity. So now you can see in this scenario, the sorry, I forgot to tell you, when you get a cora which is not coinciding with the deformity, that cora is called the resolution cora. We call it the resolution cora. So in this scenario, the resolution cora comes out to be 20 degrees. In the previous scenario, the previous two scenarios, you saw that the individual coras that we got, the multiple coras we got, when they added up to be exactly equal to our resolution cora. But what has happened over here? The resolution cora is 20 degrees. But when you have drawn a line, the one cora has turned out to be 37 degrees. The other cora is 17 degrees. It does not mean that now the connective cora over here is 54 degrees. Actually, the above is a varus deformity, the lower one is a valgus deformity. These two deformities are cancelling each other, and the resultant cora again is 20 degrees. So now let us correct the deformity. First, we will correct the distal deformity. Again, we will, using the same principles, we will draw a more or less an angulation correction axis on do an osteotomy along the angulation correction axis. We have corrected the shaft deformity, but now you can appreciate the degree of varus deformity. Now what will we do is we will do a second osteotomy. Now, as you can see, the deformity has been corrected and joint orientations have been restored and the mechanical axis of the limb has been restored. These were the three possible scenarios in which you can encounter a tibia deformity. One, a board deformity, the other deformity in which there were opposing deformities, one at the proximal tibia and other at the distal tibia. Another scenario in which there was the two reference lines were not joining each other. So these are the most common three scenarios that you will encounter when there are multiple deformities. Okay. If I can quickly find the previous X-ray which we discussed in our first meeting, in a scenario when there was a deformity which was not coinciding. If I can easily find it, I'll, yeah, maybe it was over here. Are there any questions so far?
Dr. Arslan asking about the length of the limb. If we do a both osteotomy, that is in this case, that is opening wedge, that will lengthen your limb.
I am not doing an opening wedge osteotomy. I'm just showing you what you will mostly do. If I, let's say, if I plan a case in which I have to do two osteotomies and the patient has got no limb length discrepancy, the only discrepancy is because of the angulation. Obviously, I will plan one closing wedge and one opening wedge. So what will I do is I will take out the wedge from one part and I will place that wedge on the other part. So I will not have to take another wedge from the iliac bone. Simply by using wedge taken from one part, I will correct the other deformity. Let me show you a case. I have actually done this. This is my routine practice. Whenever I have to do two osteotomies and I decide to go for internal fixation, I do the same. I take wedge graft from one side and put it on the other side. See, like in this case. Like as you can see in this case, I've taken the wedge from this part and I placed this wedge in the femur. So this is an option that you can opt for. Again, it all depends upon the length and the other scenarios. If the patient has got shortening as well, so I would rather go for an Elizarov, and I will, while in my attempt to correct it, I would also gain some length as well. I hope.
Dr. Farooq Abbas is asking about the first Cora.
First Cora, I didn't, sorry, first Cora, what do you mean by first Cora?
He said that, what about the first Cora? We have multi-apical.
Dr. Farooq, I have unmuted you. You can unmute yourself and you can ask your question. You can ask whatever you want. Dr. Farooq, I have unmuted you. Okay, Satar, you can ask me what you wanted to know.
He said he just asking what the first Cora again question here.
So can you listen me?
Yes.
Sir, I'm asking कि जब आपने पहली line draw की थी तो उस वक्त कोरा बना था, that was outside the deformity.
Okay.
उसको छोड़ देंगे sir क्या?
Yes.
उसके निकलने के बाद
उसको, that Cora is called the resolution Cora. It only tells us if the Cora, if that first Cora is not coinciding with your obvious deformity, or if it is going outside the bone, or if the two lines are not joining to each other, then that is not the correct Cora. That is not the true representation of the deformity. You will do nothing with that Cora. Okay. That Cora will tell, will only tell you that you have to look for another place where the deformity is. So the initial Cora has got no significance in terms of correction. It will only tell you that you need to look for another Cora because that Cora does not coincide with the obvious deformity. Let us plan one on the X-ray, and then we can move forward with our femur. As you can see in this patient, we will assume that femur is normal. We don't have enough time to do the whole planning. And here you can see that the line is passing more or less through the center of the knee. But as you can see, the tibia is bowed. Let us zoom the tibia. You will draw your reference lines. There is some problem with the angulation of the femur. So you will draw the reference line of the femur, then tibia, a 90 degree line, lateral distal femoral angle, tibial angle. And now as you can see over here, the Cora that we have gotten is not coinciding with the obvious deformity. As you can see over here, obviously on your first look, you'll know that.
Dr. Yasser is asking about the, again, resolution Cora.
Okay, in this scenario, yes, okay, in this scenario, that's why I've opted another X-ray, so that, so the resolution Cora, by definition, it is the Cora which does not coincide with the deformity. If you get a Cora, you have got a case of deformity, and if in that case you appreciate that the deformity, the Cora is not coinciding with your obvious deformity, or if the two reference lines are not joining with each other, or if the reference lines in the tibia are outside the bone, then it must not be the true representative of that deformity. So obviously in this case, you have to look for another deformity. Sorry about that. Okay, I think I was discussing about the resolution Cora. Can you all hear me, Abdul Sattar?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I was telling you that resolution Cora is whenever the Cora does not coincide with the obvious deformity, or if it is outside the bone, or if the two lines are not joining with each other. Okay. This only tells you that we have to look for another location of the deformity and possibly multiple deformities. Other than that, that Cora does not tell you the location of the deformity. Okay. So in this scenario, the obvious deformity is here, but the Cora has come over here. So we must have another deformity. We must know that. By now, this has two deformities. One is obvious one, and there is another hidden deformity. And because of that deformity, our Cora has not coincided with that obvious deformity. So what we will do now is we will draw a third reference line which will transect these two lines within the bone, and this line will be starting from can you all see the, okay, so I've drawn a third line, this third line, which is starting from the location of the obvious deformity, and more or less it is the representation of the shaft, and it must join the other two lines within the bone. So this third line now has given me my two deformities. So now I know that there was a varus deformity of 7 degrees in the proximal tibia, which was moving the cora downwards. So now there are two deformities. What will happen now is I will have to do two osteotomies now. Let's plan a closing wedge over here. We don't have to do opening wedge all the time. Now I have done a closing wedge osteotomy over here and another osteotomy higher above, and now this has corrected the deformity. Are there any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, should I proceed towards the femur part?
Sure.
Are there any questions? If you want, you can ask right now. This is a case with us right now. This is a case of femur deformity. Apparently, as you can all see that the femur is in valgus. There is a mid-diaphyseal valgus deformity of the femur. And
Dr.
now,
Pashtun is asking how much osteotomy we will do in the previous video.
repeat your question.
How much osteotomies we will do?
Mostly in most of the cases in which there is not bowing, there are usually two deformities, one counteracting the other. This is how the deformity system works. But in a patient with bowed deformities, usually you have to do 2 or even 3 osteotomies in order to correct the bone. That's why I told you in the beginning, in case of bowed deformity, you can do 2 osteotomies, even 3 osteotomies. The basic principle remains the same, that you have to draw a reference line of that particular segment, which will cross the line above and below the reference lines. And wherever the line crosses the reference lines, give you the resultant cora of that particular point. Okay? Usually in how the bone works, there are usually 2 deformities. Usually one varus valgus, 2 varus multiple. That's why I'm showing you different scenarios. And it does not really matter how much deformities there are, because
Amount of wedge. Actually, he was asking about the amount of wedge, how much amount of wedge we can dissect it.
That I told you earlier. How do you calculate how much bone that you want to resect? It depends upon the angle. In my last session, I told you that you will draw. Let's do exercise on this, and I'll tell you. Okay, acute correction versus gradual correction. This is the basic rule. Usually, more than 25 degrees, it is very difficult to correct them acutely. If the deformity is more than 25 degrees, it is recommended that you do it gradually. Don't do this much correction in a single setting. You might end up with neurovascular problems, and that much gap. If you want to fill it with the bone graft, obviously it will have problems with union and other problems. So in this case, patient, this is, as the picture represents, this is a varus deformity. But what can you appreciate over here is there is a valgus, obvious valgus in the femur, but the knee is still lateral in the medial. This also gives you a clue that there must be another varus deformity of E of more magnitude than this apparent varus deformity. So now let us draw the lines. Now, the lateral proximal femoral angle is 84 degrees. The normal is 90 degrees. It is not normal. And distally, the lateral distal femoral angle is LDFA is 96 degrees. Well, the normal is 88 degrees. So both the readings are abnormal. When we look at the distal angle, LDFA is increased. So it tells us there is a varus deformity, while the LD lateral proximal femoral angle LPFA is decreased. It tells you that it's a varus deformity. So you can say that there is some varus deformity, sorry, valgus deformity in the proximal part and a varus deformity in the distal part. So let us first draw the reference lines. As I told you earlier, it is safer, recommended that you draw the reference lines using the rule of 3 lines. Here, I'm going to draw a line, which is a mid-diaphyseal line, the proximal tibia, femur, sorry, and then I'm going to draw a 7 degrees of reference line, parallel line, 7 degrees reference line to that parallel line, and this is going to give me mechanical axis of the proximal femur. Then I'm going to draw a reference line of the distal femur with LDFA of 88 degrees. See what has happened. The two lines are not coinciding with each other. What does it tell you? That there are two opposite deformities in this femur, and because of which my lines have not coincided. I'm not able to get a chora. So you'll have to draw a third reference line. Now it is obvious here that, and you need to check when you drew your proximal reference line with the 3 lines rule, using the 3 lines principle, you also can check whether your lateral proximal femoral angle is normal or not. It is normal, so it means that the bone from here above, there is no deformity, meaning the joint orientation of the femoral head is normal, of the hip joint is normal. So now I'm going to draw a third reference line of the distal femur. As we did in the tibia, I'm drawing a line which is more or less a representative of the distal line. And now one thing that you need to understand is mechanical axis is always 7 degrees to this anatomical axis. So now using this reference line, I will draw a 7-degree line. Now this line is a reference line. Now this line is a mechanical axis reference line to the disc part of the femur, because mechanical axis is always making an angle of 7 degrees with your femur shaft. So this reference line I will draw, which will start. You can simply remove this line. So I will draw this reference line, which will connect my proximal femur mechanical axis line more or less at the place of the obvious deformity, and where that line will join the reference line of the distal femur will give me the location of the second deformity. So now I have calculated the 2 deformities in the femur. One is, so let us first just correct these deformities and see what happens. The magnitude of the proximal deformity is 15 degrees, and the bisector will be cutting the 160 degrees angle. Let us see. it will be around 83 degrees, I think. Yes, 83 degrees. Let us do an osteotomy at this place. So I'm going to, I'm going to do an osteotomy over here and keep my hinge. I'm planning an opening wedge osteotomy, and this is how I have corrected my proximal part of the femur. Now I have got one deformity, which is the distal one. Now again, what will I do is, I would now see this is deformity is in the condylar portion. It's an intra-articular deformity. I cannot do an osteotomy over here and cut the medial condyle into two pieces. So I would be planning another. I would be planning a rule 2 osteotomy. Let us just simply extend this line a bit further. So now it is again a 16 degrees deformity, larger angle of 164, and again I think the 82 degrees would be my bisector. So what I need to do now is, I will be doing a supracondylar osteotomy. I will not want to do an osteotomy in the condyle. Star, can you hear me? Why has Star muted himself? Satar, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, Dr. Aslani asking about the how we can draw a mid-diaphyseal line in the femur while the deformity is in the diaphysis.
Okay. Now the deformity was mid diaphyseal. You can see in over the bone over here. You can see. Just forget the lower half from where the deformity is. The upper portion and the lower portion. The upper portion is straight, so you will draw a reference line of this part portion only, and when you have a straight portion over here as well, so you will draw another reference line of this portion. Mid diaphyseal line does not really mean that exactly mid of the diaphysis. It has to be a diaphyseal line in the middle part, meaning this is the diaphysis. You will take one extreme, the other extreme, and then draw a line in the center. Again, you'll do the same. So the mid diaphyseal, the anatomical axis line would be different from for the proximal femur and for the distal femur. Okay. So now in this scenario, I've done the osteotomy over here, and I'm planning to do the correction. I'm again doing an opening wedge over here. If you don't want to do this, you can even do a closed. But here I'll be doing a translation because I've done an osteotomy which is away from the cora, because I did not want to do an intra-articular osteotomy. So now the deformity will be corrected by translation. There. Now, as you can see, the deformities have been corrected. And if you draw a mechanical axis, it will start from the head of the femur to the ankle, and it will cross the joint in the middle. This has corrected the deformity. Are there any more questions? How do we draw mid-diaphyseal line in a femur with a diaphyseal deformity?
Jawad was asking about the thickness of osteotomy wedge that was related to the preoperative planning.
Okay, as I told you earlier.
Was clear.
Okay.
Yes.
As I told you earlier, that the amount of deformity you will have to calculate. In this scenario, let us discuss, let me open up a scanogram. Let me open up we did planning in this X-ray. As I told you that a scanogram is an X-ray which is of 100% magnification, which is, it is neither zoomed in nor zoomed out. And when you are doing the planning on a software, there is always a calibration marker. There is a ball which is placed. This tells you the reference. Now this scanogram is referenced. Now I know the exact magnification of my scan. Let's take this example here. I have yeah, this is an 87-degree line, again a 90-degree line. This is where my Cora came, and again I decided that this Cora is not coinciding with my original deformity, so I drew another line which was starting from the deformity and crossing joining the other line as well. Now, as you can see, between these two lines, the deformity is, between these two lines, the magnitude of the deformity is about 15 degrees, okay? Between these two lines. It is 19 degrees of deformity. So I want to do a closing wedge. Let's suppose I want to do a closing wedge osteotomy. How will I know that how much bone that I need to remove? Okay. First I would place now I have drawn my angulation correction axis over here, and I know the magnitude of my deformity is 19 degrees. Okay, so roughly 20 degrees. What will I need to do is I want to take out my wedge half from above and half from below. So I would be drawing a 10 degrees lines on either side of my angulation correction axis. Okay, this is the apex of the deformity. See, now let me remove the other lines so that you can appreciate. Let me simply remove all these other lines. This is, my planning has given me that this is the wedge that I need to take out. Okay, this required wedge will give me correction. By now, if you are doing your planning on an actual X-ray, you can simply take a measuring tape and measure the length of the scale, length of the wedge that you need to take out. Here I have a ruler with me. Using that ruler, I will simply measure the amount of bone that I need to take. Here I need to remove 1 centimeter of bone, and that 1 centimeter of bone will give me 20 degrees of correction. This is how you do your correction. Now let me demonstrate it to you. These are my all original lines. This was my initial Cora, and this Cora joint. Now what I simply need to do is I would do an osteotomy. This was my angulation correction axis. I would do an osteotomy which is centered over here, and when I will placing my hinge here, let me join. So when I remove 1 centimeter of my bone, this will simply realign the axis. This is the right way to determine the length of the deformity. And 1 mm, 1 degree, so 20 degrees. This is exact. I think, yeah, that you did not attend my last lecture. I specifically told you that the rule, the people that you say that 1 millimeter of bone will correct 1 degree of deformity, this is not true. This does not happen. You have to measure the deformity. The more diaphysial the deformity, the smaller the diameter of the bone, the less bone you'll need to remove in order to gain more correction. So 1 millimeter, 1 degree rule does not exist. Okay? Are there
Fine,
any
sir.
more, or should I proceed with my next slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have discussed one scenario of femur. Let's discuss another scenario. In this case, I'm gonna be a little bit quick now. As you can see, there is a valgus deformity. Again, we will first draw the reference lines of the proximal and distal femur, joint orientation lines and mechanical axis. This is, I'm sure there must be many questions because it is not a simple concept. Feel free to ask as many questions as you want because these are very confusing aspects. I'm sure you'll have many questions in your mind. Please feel free to ask. Now look at this. The lateral distal femoral angle here is 75 degrees and the lateral proximal femoral angle here is 98 degrees. Both the angles are disturbed. So let us jump to our planning. Again, I told you that using a 3 line rule, I'm going to draw a reference mechanical axis of the femur. This will also explain why am I stressing on the 3 line rule rather than just drawing the reference lines. As look at this, look what has happened over here. When I have drawn the mechanical axis reference of the proximal hip, look what the lateral proximal femoral angle over here is. It's 113 degrees. The normal is 90 degrees. It has told me that there is a difference in the neck shaft angle. There is the joint orientation of the proximal femur of the of the hip joint is not normal. So now I will draw the reference line of the distal femur. It is 88 degrees. Look, this axis, this has joined in a part in the femur. Okay, so now as you can see, this line has coincided, which is more or less in the femur, where the deformity is. And as I told you earlier, that the mechanical axis of the femur is medial to the bone. So whenever there is a diaphyseal deformity, the apex of the deformity when doing mechanical axis calculation, it will come out of the bone, not necessarily inside the bone. Now we have got 2 coras. Why do I say that we have got 2 coras? One, this deformity here, by joining the 2 reference lines have given me the obvious deformity. But what has happened that the proximal femoral angle is not normal. The lateral proximal femoral angle here is 112 degrees. What is the normal angle? 90 degrees. So what I would do over here is I would draw a reference line at 90 degrees. And this line here has given me the magnitude of the deformity. The cora of the proximal part is 22 degrees. This has got the coxa vara. There is a coxa vara of 22 degrees magnitude. So now let us just correct the deformity, and then you will know how the next shaft angles improves. Whenever you have got a case of coxa vara, you need to increase the next shaft angle. You do an osteotomy at the level of the lesser trochanter or just above. Your apex is, your rotation is on the center of the femur, and you always translate it. You bring the apex, the lateral apex gets wedged in to the shaft, and then you will plan a second osteotomy over here. Now look at the next shaft angle. It will automatically as you can see, this is the reference diaphyseal line. The next shaft angle here now is, let's see what it is. It is 135 degrees. Just I have corrected my reference angles. The next shaft angle has corrected itself. Now, let us move to the deformity which is below. Let us do a deformity over here. Now, again, I've planned an opening wedge. Sorry. And no, I've gone away from the cora. Let us draw a first. Let us draw the mid bisector line. The magnitude of the deformity here is 27 degrees with the larger angle 153 degrees. It will be here at 76 degrees. This is my angulation correction axis. That's why you don't eyeball everything. It can mislead you. So now placing the hinge in this part. As you can see now this has corrected the deformity. The next shaft angle has dissolved and the deformity has been corrected. Okay, let me quickly repeat this scenario by doing anatomical axis. I have not done anatomical axis planning in the femur so far. So let us discuss anatomical planning in this case over here as well. So when doing the anatomical planning, we all know that the anatomical lateral proximal femoral angle mean is 84 degrees, and it is medial, sorry, anatomical medial proximal femoral angle. So what's going to happen over here is we're going to draw the reference joint orientation, the mid diaphyseal line of the proximal femur. We are going to draw a lateral distal femoral angle at 81 degrees. This is going to give us the location of the deformity. Now let us see. The medial proximal tibial angle over here is 60 degrees. Okay, so 60 degrees. So, and the reference angle is 84 degrees. So we need to correct this as well. So what are we going to do is, and as I told you earlier, the anatomical axis line, the mid diaphyseal line enters the femur at the piriform fossa, and it passes the knee, not in the center, but where the medial eminence of the tibial spine is. Okay, so from at this location, at the location of the piriform fossa, I will draw an 84 degrees reference line. this will give me the deformity of 24 degrees. And when we calculated using the mechanical axis, it gave us the deformity of 22 degrees, which is more or less the same. So again, we will be doing the same. The planning, if we do if we keep our hinge over here, it will do the correction by shortening. If we move our hinge a bit laterally, it will obviously open up the we will gain length as well, and we can do the osteotomy in the similar manner in the distal part as well. So now, by now we have planned and corrected the multi-apical deformity, 3 different scenarios in the femur and multiple scenarios, 3 different scenarios in the tibia and multiple scenarios in the femur as well. Are there any questions?
Dr. Hassan is asking about the similar. Have to repeat the wedge, the magnitude of wedge, which
Okay.
we already discussed.
Okay, let me discuss
Please
with
repeat
you.
it.
We can discuss the wedge by, let me open up an X-ray of and give you a scenario when there is a simple deformity, not a multi-apical deformity. And over here, let us discuss this scenario. Okay, let us discuss this scenario. As this calibration mark will tell the software what the original length is. Now, let me quickly, in 1 minute, let me quickly do the start with this. Let us quickly measure the deformity in 1 minute, and then we can. This is 7 degrees line, and then here. Here, look. Now this is a 17 degrees deformity. Let's just calculate. Okay, 17 deformity, and the ACA when we will divide the larger angle, dividing the larger angle will give me my angulation correction axis. Dividing 163 degrees, it will be like 82 degrees. This is my ACA right now. This is my angulation correction axis. Now I am planning a closing wedge osteotomy. Look, when I want my end correction to line on this. If I want to do an opening wedge osteotomy, I would do an osteotomy over here and then open everything. If I want to close it, obviously I want to remove half of the bone above and half of the bone below. Or we can even remove the bone lower down as well. It does not make any difference. So the point is, we will draw a 17 degrees line. Let us draw a 17-degree line over here. This is the amount. We want to correct 17 degrees. So the amount of bone that needs to be removed needs to be 17 degrees. Okay. If we remove 17 degrees of bone, it will give us 17 degrees of correction. So I've simply drawn a line which is 17 degrees at 17 degrees to my ACA. Now I will simply, if you are doing this planning on a piece of paper, you will simply place a scale over here and measure this. Okay, I have a scale over here in my software. Look, this is giving me 1 centimeter. Okay, roughly 1.1 centimeter of bone needs to be removed in order for me to correct 17 degrees of the deformity. The rule which is commonly everyone hears is that you need to remove 1 degree of bone, 1 millimeter of bone to achieve 1 degree of correction. It does not exist. and this line is going to, with this line, this is going to correct the deformity. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So is there any more question regarding how much wedge needs to be removed, or how much, how to do an osteotomy? You can say, ask the question right now. Or are there any more questions? I would like to answer the questions. So I hope everyone got my point, what I tried to say. There are 3 more questions. There is no formula. This is, it is not tough. There is a little bit of concept. The amount of bone you need to remove, if there is a 20 degrees of deformity, obviously you need to remove the bone to correct those 20 degrees. So just at your angulation correction axis, just draw a line from your ACA. Just draw a line. Let me zoom it in. This is my angulation correction axis. Okay. From this axis, I need to draw a reference line which will correct the deformity. So since I have got 17 degrees of deformity, the line which is making 17 degrees of angle with this line is going to correct the deformity. Okay. And the amount of bone which comes in between, you can simply measure it and then remove it. The rule of 1 degree, look, in this scenario, 17, to correct 17 degrees of deformity, you needed to remove 11 millimeters of bone. If you would have removed 17 millimeters of bone, you would have overcorrected the deformity. Okay. So Satar, are there any more questions? Abdul Sattar?
Yes, sir. No, it's all clear up till now.
Okay, so this concludes our session. I would like you all to listen to this session once again when I upload it. It's a very conceptual thing. And in our next session, which is going to be on this Friday, and it will be on the sagittal plane deformities. If you want, in the initial 15 minutes, I can repeat a few concepts which you have found difficult. So please listen to this lecture once again. If there are any questions, you can ask them over the WhatsApp group, and I would be glad to answer these questions. Okay. So we will meet inshallah on next Friday, and the topic would be on the how to correct a sagittal plane deformity. This concludes our session. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, sir.